salutations to all the prophets and the messengers of Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our gathering. Allahumma ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And as I promised you yesterday, that we are going to continue the explanation of, or we are going to start, inshallah, the explanation of chapter number 28, which is Surah Al-Qasas. And the word Al-Qasas means the surah of narrating the stories, telling the stories. And it's the surah of the stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned one after one. And of course, it has lots of benefits. But as I told you, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed 3 chapters together, or one after one. We call them, which surah? Shu'ara, An-Naml, and Al-Qasas. So the 3 surahs almost are dealing with the same topic. So if you remember, the first one, which is Shu'ara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling the Prophet Muhammad about the nations who refused, who attacked, who denied the message of the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's number 1. In Surah An-Naml, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave more elaboration to those stories, and it has some positive impact on the prophets themselves. But Surah Al-Qasas is completely different, because actually it's dealing with the matter of the migration, the matter of the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's from one aspect. From the other aspect, I just wanted to give you an overview today, introduction about the surah, inshallah. Then next week we are going to go more deep and deep about the stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned in the surah. So first of all, Surah Al-Qasas is Surah Makkiyah. What we said, what's the meaning of Makkiyah? Before Hijrah. It's not in Mecca, because there are surahs in between. So before Hijrah, that's Makkiyah. After Hijrah, this is Madaniyah. And all the surah is Makkiyah except 2 verses. And we will talk, inshallah, more about why specifically those 2 verses are revealed after the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And actually the surah revealed right after Surah An-Naml. And one of the things that I wanted you to know about this surah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had declared in the surah, that he is going to tell the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam the best of the stories. Ahsanul Qasasi. That's why it's called the best. And it's it's Surah Yusuf, which has Ahsan al-Qasas, and this surah is al-Qasas itself, means the stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted our ummah to be attached to. If you remember what we mentioned in the story of, or in the surah of Shu'ara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us brief explanation about the story of Musa alayhi salam. In Surah Al-Qasas, you will find lots of details about the story of Musa alayhi salam, starting from the time of his birth and what happened after his birth, and when he was raised up in the castle of Fir'aun, and that will take us to his migration to Madian. So he was in a place, and I wanted you to compare that to the situation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidina Musa was in Egypt, then he migrated from Egypt to Madian. Where is Madian? In Yemen. Okay, so then he came back from Madian to Egypt, and he spreaded the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why Allah is telling the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that? Allah is preparing him psychologically that one day, O Muhammad, you are going to migrate. One day you are going, like Musa alayhi salam, he was forced to migrate. Also you will migrate from Mecca to Medina, but you will come back. You will come back. That's why one of the 2 verses were revealed in Medina. I told you the entire chapter, 88 verses. 2 of them were revealed in Medina. One of these 2, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam while he was on his way to Medina, Allah said, إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. Be aware that the one that who obligated the Quran over you, he will bring you back in a certain period of time. In a specific time, you will be taken back to your original place, which is Mecca, and that it was fulfilled after 8 years from the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what we know as Fath Mecca, or the conquest of Mecca, when Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned to Mecca. And Allah grants him the victory. And of course, you memorize إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ till the end of the surah. But I wanted just to tell you an overview, what is the surah is talking about, and one of the things that the surah is dealing with. And let me start by just asking, maybe to let Brother Mu'tasim wake up a little bit, or to tell Hajj Wazdi to wake up a little bit, or brother, who else? Brother Muhammad Khan, are you awake? Okay, you're already awake. Okay. What about Brother Muhammad Ali? He's writing notes. Okay. If I told you Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can guide people, is that statement right or wrong? Wrong. Only Allah guides. Just convey the message. Okay, how do you explain the verse in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Hadiyan wa mubashiran wa nadhira? You are a guider and bringing the good news and warning people. So Allah called him Hadiya. You can guide people. So how do you explain this? This is the point that I wanted to talk. Let's, inshallah, bismillah, let's get this point, inshallah, because there is something is related to that surah we wanted to explain, inshallah, and also it's related to the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Muhammad, innaka la tahdi man ahbabt. You cannot guide whomsoever you want. ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء. Only Allah guides whomsoever He wants. This is the verse in Surah Al-Qasas. And why is that? Because of the hadith narrated by Al-Bukhari wa Muslim, mentioned by Al-Bukhari wa Muslim, and narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when his uncle Abu Talib got sick and he was on his deathbed, he came to him and he said, Ya Ammi, oh my uncle, just one statement, say it, and I can intercede on behalf of you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say the statement of Islam, say the Shahada. But his uncle didn't say. He refused. And you know what? What did he say? He said, I don't want people to talk after my death to say Abu Talib said that statement because he was afraid to die. And he put us down by the time of his death. I don't want people to mention my name in a bad way. He was afraid of his people. He said, if it wasn't my people, I would say the statement that will be a coolness to your eyes. Look at that situation, and Rasulullah was so sad. And Allah revealed that verse. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You cannot guide whomsoever you want. Only the guidance comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But again, why Allah mentioned Rasulullah as Hadiya, a guider? And we can say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided me through that person, right? He made him as a reason, as a mean, so I can be guided. We can explain that we have two types of guidance. Two types of guidance. Something we call it Hidayatu Irshad. Irshad. What's the meaning of Irshad? To show you the way. to enlighten the path. This is what we call it, guidance for irshad. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a guider. For what? To show you irshad. But we have another type of guidance, which is related to the faith, which is related to the belief. When Allah puts that belief in your heart, it's only from Allah. Like when our brother, we are so proud of his coming in his presence, Brother Derek, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the seeds of belief in his heart. That's not anybody. Yes, he talked with me. I cannot own the guidance. How many people they came and asked me? How many people asked me about Islam? How many people you talk about Islam, about like to them about Islam? Lots of people. But how many are accepting? Only those that Allah has chose them to be guided. And I told you, it's a matter of fact, it has a secret behind it. Yes.
Allah said, Inna Allah yahdi man yasha.
Yes.
Who is man yasha? Allah or the person?
Yes, of course. Allahu yahdi man yasha. For Allah guides whomsoever He wants. Allah wants. And it has another meaning too. And this is what I was about to say. That Allah guides those who will come and take the step forward to Allah. You know, sometimes you find people ask about Islam, but they do not move. They do not take the initiative step to search, to read. Like our brother said, Imam, okay, I have questions. Okay, he gave the questions and I give him the answers as much as I can, alhamdulillah. But then he went home, started to search, started to read, ask. He started to practice. He started to come and see us. This is the step forward. Allah, when Allah sees you exerting efforts to get the guidance, so that means you deserve that guidance. So when you take that step forward, that's what we call it yasha. Means the person is willing to. You remember the verse yesterday? We said that the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cannot guide three categories: the dead, the deaf, and the blind. Right? You remember? Like the dead whose heart are dead. The deaf, they cannot hear the advice. And the blind, their hearts are, and their minds cannot, and their eyes cannot see the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But whom that He is able to guide means to tell him about the direction, to show him the way. Those who are able and willing to listen. And that's why, yes. Now, Sahih. Yes, Allahu Akbar. Because of the deep, like because of the absolute knowledge of Allah. He knows, for example, if somebody did not take the initiative step and move forward to get the guidance from Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also will not guide him, because He knows previously that if he was guided, he will not be a good person. He will not be a good ambassador of Islam. But there's something I just wanted to tell you about. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so sad about his uncle, right? And that tells you what? Tells you that sometimes it's not about being a relative of a messenger. We said that the son of Noah did not accept his message, right? The wife of Lut did not accept his message. The wife of Nuh did not accept his message. Like they were disobedient. And the father of Abraham, and then the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Talib, and Abu Talib was so supportive. But he was taking that as a trivialism, as I'm defending, my brother's son, because I don't want people to belittle him. So that's the name and that's the fame of the family. He took it from that sense. And he has the deep feeling that he was on the right track, but he didn't mention the Shahada. One of the things also that the surah is dealing with is it talks about the Milad, the birth of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And how was that so important? And I hope inshallah next week we can go more deeper into that meaning, because Allah started the surah not to tell us about Rasulullah Muhammad or about his uncle or even about Musa alayhi salam. Allah is telling us about different person, about Fir'aun. Allah is talking about Fir'aun, the Pharaoh, the dictator, the oppressor, was during the time of Musa alayhi salam. And Allah, excuse me, Allah is giving us the recipe at the beginning of the surah why Fir'aun became a dictator. And that recipe is not only for Fir'aun, it's not exclusively for Fir'aun. It is the recipe for every dictator, for every oppressor. 4 things, 4 ingredients. If you give to any ruler, he will be a dictator in very short time, no matter what. He said, Inna Fir'auna fil ard, means he was so arrogant. Allah gave him the position and the high authority. That's number 1. وَجَعَلَ أَهْلَهَا شِيَعًا, and he divided his own people. He separated based on the class, based on the power, based on the money. He made them classes. He made them groups. And that takes us to the golden rule, which is Farriq Tasud. Allahu Akbar. Divide people so you can control them. And this is what the enemies of Islam had done for the Muslim Ummah, actually. They divided us based on what? Listen, based on the ethnicities. He is Pakistani. He is Indian. No. He's Egyptian. I don't like the Egyptians, especially our Imam. So he is Jordanian. He is, from Trinidad. He's from Guyana. He's from that. He's from that. And we forgot that all of us are Muslims. All of us are Muslims. So they divided our ummah based on that. Number 2, which I see one of the most dangerous things that they penetrated, they injected our ummah with, they divided us through the madhahib in religion. So you know what? He is Shafi'i. Brother Ismail is Hanafi. Okay, brother Ahsan is Maliki. Hanbali, yes. So everyone started to raise the flag of his madhab. And if we knew how those scholars themselves respected, loved each other, they were students of each other. They were taking the knowledge from each. The madhahib, like the way that we look, they understood Islam with the sense of flexibility. As long as you are within the limits of Islam, you are in a good shape. As long as you are following a solid evidence in the Quran and the Sunnah, you are in a good shape. But to keep calling he's Hanafi, no, we don't want to follow their madhab. No, we don't want. divided the ummah till the point. Do not get upset with me, because I said before, the mission of the Imam is not to say what pleases people. He only says what pleases Allah, whether that pleases people or not. Yes, students of each other, taking the knowledge from each other. And the third thing that they divided the ummah based on the language. He speaks Arabic, so he's a good Muslim. Astaghfirullah. He does not speak Arabic, no, he's semi-Muslim. Or that person born as a Muslim. No, he's just a converter to Islam. I told you, remember that statement. ليست العبرة بمن سبق إنما العبرة بمن صدق. It's not about who came first to Islam. It's all about who is more sincere to Allah. That's the most important. Regardless of your skin color, regardless of your mother tongue, regardless even if you born as a Muslim, maybe a person who just converted to Islam 1 week ago, and he is in the sight of Allah better than all of us. It's not about how many years you stayed in Islam. I want you to wake up. I want you to understand this. It's not about, they splitted our ummah and they divided our ummah based on all of these things. To the point that you have Muslims nowadays, when you talk with them about the Masjid al-Aqsa, about Palestine, about Syria, about Al-Quds, they tell you, no, Imam, it's not related to us. We don't want to bother ourselves. It's not here in New Parichi. We want to care about something here in New Parichi. La ilaha illallah, astaghfirullah. If that is something that makes us united, no. And the second ingredient in the recipe, that Fir'aun, to be able to control people, he divided them into groups. That's number 2. Remember, we said how many things? 4 things. Number 1, a tyrant, oppressor, arrogance, high authority. Number 2, being to divide people into groups. جعل أهلها شيعا يستضعف طائفة منهم. He weakens group of them. He takes only the poor and he makes them very weak. Takes their civil rights and takes their human rights. He reached to the point that he يذبح أبناءهم. He was slaughtering their kids, their boys. And the verb here in the present simple tense, it does not mean that he did that once or twice or thrice. No. He was in a constant state of slaughtering their children in front of them. Imagine if you have a ruler who is slaughtering your son in front of you and you cannot even talk. يذبح أبناءهم. That's how he weakened them. And also, وَيَسْتَحْيِي نِسَاءَهُمْ. He was raping the women. So there is no dignity anymore for the men. There is no honor to defend. Nothing. He broke them psychologically, physically, mentally, and everything. Then Allah takes us to the 4th one. إِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. He was so corrupted, spreading corruption everywhere. 4 things. And you know what does it mean to spread corruption? If you are a person who has authority and you are a corrupted person, can you surround yourself by good people? Huh? Why? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? No. They will say no. Yes, they will object. They will say no, we cannot do this. They will expose it to the rest of people. You want it to be the same people to match with you. That's why when we talk about the ruler, we talk about something, we call it his bitana. You know what's bitana, Hajwazi? Yes. So, here in my uniform, it's a special uniform. But this inside there is bitana, the 2-3 layers from inside. Okay. Yes. It means his close group. That's bitana. This one that I'm pointing to, we call it in Arabic. That's called the bitana. The very close group, advisors, consultants, everyone, helpers, assistants, they must be in the same level or even higher in the corruption. Otherwise, they cannot help him. This is the recipe, how to have a dictator ruler. Then Allah is going to tell us, in that environment, He willed that Musa is going to be born. Inshallah, next time we will talk more and more about the rest of Surah Al-Qasas and the miraculous science in the birth of Musa alayhi salam. I just wanted, if you wanted to get a little bit of homework that you can take, just one question. What do you know about the prophecy which came to Fir'aun, that there is a boy will be raised in his castle, he will destroy his kingdom? Who told him that prophecy? That's a very important question. Jazakumullahu khairan, barakallahu fikum. Prepare the answer and do not forget. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan. Allahumma